The Old West wouldn't be the Old West without guns. From the lonely desperado to the lawman who imposes order with the barrel of a six-shooter, guns are indelibly linked into the popular memory of the Wild West. Although gun control was surprisingly prevalent and successful in the Wild West, most people indeed owned firearms. Guns were tools used on the frontier to harvest resources, defend oneself against animals, and to conquer Native Americans. They are also widely known for their use in shootouts, quick-draw duels, and robbery. These violent encounters, and the weapons used in them, have provided much of the mystique and legend of that time. Welcome to West America Facts, where we're diving into the thrilling world of the Wild West. In today's video, we're taking you on a journey through the dusty trails and saloons of the old frontier as we explore the 5 types of weapons used by cowboys in the Wild West. From trusty six-shooters to deadly rifles, we've got it all covered. So don't forget to wrangle that like button, hit subscribe, and share your thoughts down below in the comments. Y'all ready? Let's saddle up and ride into the past. Number 1. The Peacemaker. The Peacemaker is like the rock star of revolvers from the Old West. If you've seen a 1950s Western, you'd probably recognize it instantly. It goes by another cool name too. The Colt Single-Action Army Revolver. It's not just any old gun. It's got history, style, and a reputation that stood the test of time. Now, let's talk about what single action means. Imagine you've got this gun in your hand, and before you can make it go bang, you've got to manually pull back the hammer. That's what single action is all about. You do that hammer pull, and then when you're ready, you squeeze the trigger. Simple, right? This gun came in different sizes and packs a punch with its .45 caliber. They made a whopping 192,000 of these babies throughout history. But here's the cool part. Back in 1873, when they started making it, it was like a revolution in the world of guns. It's said to be the first ever cartridge-type revolver that the U.S. Army adopted. That's a big deal because it changed the game for firearms forever. The Peacemaker wasn't just any gun. It was a history maker. This six-shooter also became the weapon of choice for those living on the frontier. The artillery version of this sidearm was used at the Battle of Little Big Horn. Wyatt Earp, Wes Hardin, Bat Masterson, and the Texas Rangers all preferred this weapon to others. The Colt Single-Action Army Revolver is so legendary that it can fetch a pretty penny at auctions. Just picture this. A Colt Single-Action Army Revolver, gifted to President Theodore Roosevelt on his birthday, went under the hammer and was scooped up by an anonymous buyer for a whopping $1,466,250. Now, that's one expensive birthday present. And here's a nugget of history for you. General George S. Patton, a true American hero, was known for carrying an ivory-handled Peacemaker during World War II. That's right, even in the heat of battle. Patton had his trusty Colt Single-Action Army by his side. It's not just a gun, it's a symbol of grit and determination that echoes through the annals of American history. In fact, Colt still produces the firearm due to continued demand from collectors. Number 2. The Colt Patterson Revolver. Picture this, it's the early 18s, and we're about to meet the Colt Patterson Revolver, the game-changer that kicked off the whole world of revolvers. Samuel Colt, a genius inventor, brought this wonder to life in 1831, and by 1836, it was officially patented as the first practical revolver ever created. They named it the Patterson Revolver because it rolled off the assembly line in Paterson, New Jersey. Now, why was it such a big deal? Well, before the Patterson came along, folks were stuck with single-shot pistols. You'd fire one shot, and then it was like, oops, now what? But the Patterson changed the game. It was like the superhero of firearms, with the power to fire multiple rounds before needing a reload. Imagine you're out on the wild frontier, facing all sorts of danger. You'd want a quick-draw weapon, right? That's where the Patterson Revolver shines. It was the cowboys' best friend, allowing them to react lightning fast to whatever came their way. So, if you're ever in Paterson, New Jersey, just remember that this place gave birth to the legendary Colt Patterson Revolver, the granddaddy of all revolvers. This early model and its immediate successors were very popular in the Republic of Texas in the 1840s, particularly with the Texas Rangers. The weapon, however, had flaws, particularly with the trigger. The trigger was usually hidden and then came down when the gun was cocked. While the Colt's single-action Army revolver became legendary, it had its quirks. Some folks would tell you that it had a tendency to jam quite often, and there are plenty of stories of it becoming downright useless in the heat of a fight. Imagine the frustration. But here's the thing. It wasn't known for being a powerhouse. It didn't always send someone flying out of a battle with just one shot. Nope, it often took more than that. But here's the fascinating part. Even with these quirks and limitations, the design of the Colt single-action Army gave birth to a whole family of firearms that became the backbone of the Old West. So while it may not have been perfect, it laid the groundwork for a legacy that still echoes through the pages of history. Number 3. The Colt Navy Revolver. The Colt Navy Revolver. A true legend of the frontier. Now, picture this. The year is 1851, and Samuel Colt's at it again, crafting a six-shooter that would make cowboys and adventurers jump for joy. This baby was a .36 caliber, single-action wonder, designed to be lighter than other guns of its time. They called it the Navy, not because it had anything to do with the sea, but because it had this cool twist. You see, its cylinder was like a mini storybook, engraved with a scene from a big win on May 16, 1843. It was the day the Texas Navy showed Mexico who's boss in a famous battle of Campeche. This gun didn't just shoot bullets, it carried history with it. This gun was used extensively in Missouri during civil unrest prior to the Civil War. According to the Smithsonian, the Colt Navy was the most popular percussion gun at that time. Colt's factory in Hartford, Connecticut turned out 215,348 Navy models in the course of its history. Wild Bill Hickok carried these guns in the late 1860s, and its design elements were carried through to the Colt Peacemaker. However, the Colt Navy was the first sidearm which could be properly ascribed to the frontier gunfighter. Imagine being out there on the frontier, where danger lurked behind every cactus. You'd want a trusty sidekick, right? That's where the Colt Navy Revolver stepped in, with its 6 rounds ready to defend you. Light as a feather and tough as a bull, this revolver was the ultimate companion for those who roamed the untamed West. So, next time you hear about the Colt Navy, remember that it wasn't just a gun. It was a piece of history that packed a punch. Number 4. Smith & Wesson's Russian Model. Uncover a fascinating chapter in the history of firearms with Smith & Wesson's Russian Model. We're taking a detour from Colt and diving into the world of another major gun maker, Smith & Wesson. These folks, according to historian Jeff Kinnard, landed themselves a big deal with the Russian Empire. They were tasked with supplying the Russian folks with their trusty firearms, and these guns got the catchy name Russian. Now, this wasn't a one-shot deal. Nope, this revolver went through a couple of changes before it became the beloved new model Russian. Imagine this. Between 1874 and 1878, Smith & Wesson cranked out more than 60,000 of these bad boys. And guess what? A bunch of them didn't stay in the US. Some found their way to Russia, while others made their home in the Japanese Navy. Smith & Wesson sure knew how to make history with their guns. Closer to home, right into the heart of the Wild West. You won't believe the hands that held the Colt Navy Revolver. None other than Pat Garrett, the man famous for taking down Billy the Kid. This revolver had seen some action, and it was known by another intriguing name, the Russian. The reason for that nickname was quite a tale itself. You see, these revolvers were so popular that even the mighty Imperial Russia couldn't resist their allure. They bought a whole bunch of them, and soon, these Colts became synonymous with the Russian frontier. It's like they had a passport to travel the world, from the American West to the distant lands of the Russian Empire. So, when you think about the Colt Navy Revolver, don't just picture it in the dusty streets of the Old West. Imagine it in the hands of legendary lawmen like Pat Garrett, making history one shot at a time. And remember, it wasn't just an American icon, it was a global sensation, earning its nickname as the Russian along the way. This revolver sure knew how to make a name for itself. Number 5. The Springfield Allen Conversions. Step back in time to the days of the Civil War, where soldiers on both sides relied heavily on their trusty Springfield rifles. These rifles weren't like the modern ones you might see today. They were muzzle-loaded, which means you had to stuff the bullet down the barrel before firing. Now, you might think that sounds easy, but there was a catch. Loading those rifles could be a real headache. Imagine this: you're in the heat of battle, trying to load your Springfield rifle, and suddenly, your bullet gets stuck halfway in the barrel. It's like trying to squeeze a square peg into a round hole. This glitch wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It could lead to something much more dramatic: the rifle blowing up in your face. Yes, you read that right. Soldiers had to deal with the risk of their rifles turning into explosive surprises because of the way they were loaded. So, as you picture yourself in the shoes of those brave soldiers from the past, remember that even the simplest things, like loading a rifle, could be a matter of life and death during the Civil War. After the war, Erskine S. Allen proposed to convert these old muzzleloaders to breech-loaded weapons that could fire .58 caliber bullets. After testing, this was reduced to .50 caliber, and it ultimately became the most ubiquitous Army rifle in the post-Civil War era. This gave a decisive advantage to the U.S. Army over Plains tribes such as Sioux. It quickly fell into the hands of buffalo hunters and became widely used in the West. These rifles were eventually replaced by more technically superior models, with many of the outdated weapons going to Europe to fight in the Franco-Prussian War. Thanks for dropping by and checking out our video on the 5 types of weapons used by cowboys in the Wild West. We hope you enjoyed learning about these historic tools. Now we want to hear from you. What did you think of the video? Did you find it interesting? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring fascinating topics like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more awesome content. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to bring you even more exciting videos in the future.